call the meeting to order. Mark Jackson and Barry Bellardinelli can't make it tonight. And Jordan Hensley had to resign. So we're down 4 members. And next up is acceptance of minutes.
Well, Dana, excuse me,
Sorry.
before you go on, you do roll call. Do we have a quorum?
Okay. Roll call. We have Liz, Tom, and me. That's only 3. So
We don't have a
That's-
quorum.
we don't have a quorum yet.
So we can't take any action.
Okay.
So how many members is the committee full membership?
We now have, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7. So 3 is definitely not. What did that say? Not a quorum.
We
Yeah,
can
Lisa
listen to
Johnson-
reports. We just can't take action.
Right.
Oh, here's Lisa.
Lisa's not able to get in. Lisa Wilson Grant.
No, she's on now.
Okay. And where is Eric? Radio Land, this is called Dead Air.
In Japan, they call it Serenity.
Hi, this is Dana Laird. Is Eric available? Dana Laird from the Historical Commission. Okay. Well, I was hoping he could be on the meeting tonight, but is he? Okay. 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 Somehow I didn't get that.
So if the total membership is 9, we're not gonna have a quorum.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I just didn't get the message. Okay, thanks. Okay. No, that's okay. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye. Okay, so Eric can't make it. And is that 4 of 7 is not a quorum, right?
Well, so the total membership.
Yeah, so we have,
Dana, I don't know if you realize I finally got on.
yes. Tom noticed.
It was not smooth. I don't know what the deal was this time, but
Sunspots. We have 7 current members. 3 are out. So we just have 4 tonight.
Well, hold on. I'm reading the Mason's rules here.
Okay.
Total members of the bodies be taken as, but when there's a vacancy, quorum will consist of majority of the members remaining. So we have 7 members, 2 vacancies, is that it?
4 vacancies.
We have 4 vacancies?
I'm pretty sure without looking at the list.
Well, I'm hesitant to opine on the quorum, but we should just go forward and not take action.
Okay. Why don't we just put off the minutes until next month? There's a little bit of confusion in that. How the hotel was described in new business. I'm not sure if that didn't get transcribed correctly, I don't think. I don't. Do we have any public participants?
Well,
Don't think so. Well, we can have Diane present.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to let you know that we have a new programs events coordinator, and it is Barbara Smith, who happens to be on the Common Council, and she is a former teacher. She is replacing Samantha. Samantha is going to be the executive director. She had been doing it part-time, and she has more hours to do it at Weston Historical Society. So we were excited for her. But Barbara is going to be wonderful. She started beginning of January. And so she's getting, all started dealing with the teachers again, second grade teachers, and getting involved with that. And we will be doing programming, scheduling for the rest of the year. So that's what we're working on. But we're excited to have Barbara on board of the Norwalk Historical Society. Next thing is, if you went on the Norwalk Historical Society website, it's brand new. We had it redesigned by Scott Kuykendall. And one thing that got added, which is pretty big, we added virtual exhibits. So if there was any exhibits that you may have missed, right now there are 8 of them up. They are now on the website, like the Angry Waters. Angry Waters exhibit came way before I got here, so now I get to see what that exhibition was about. So a lot of our current exhibits, especially in the museum, is online. So we're going to continue with that. So we're expanding our reach. And everybody's having thinks it's wonderful. So take a look at what we've done on the new website. The next thing is, our collection. We've been going through the former Norwalk Museum collection and figuring out what to do there. And Darren's been doing an excellent job along with the committee in taking a look at what's in the collection or what shouldn't be in the collection. So that is proceeding. I don't know if anybody went to the Norwalk Film Festival this past weekend. The Historical Society was one of the sponsors. This is the 3rd one that they've had. And it was very well attended, and everybody's very excited. It was great movies and documentaries that were shown. So it will again continue. We're very, very excited about how well it turned out, and the screenings were done at the Wall Street Theater, and they had workshops at the Norwalk Public Library, which that combination seemed to work. And right now I'm working on with a couple of people applying to grants. So it's that time of year again, applying to grants for upcoming exhibitions that we're planning on, and some events. But that's what's going on, and like Happy New Year to everyone.
Okay. Thanks, Diane. Next up is Lockwood Matthews Mansion.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for all your support and interest in the mansion. We're very busy with preparing to move, and maybe Patsy later will say something about that, but we're also very busy with programs. We are grateful to Stepping Stones, who is they're lending their multimedia gallery to us this spring. And we have 4 fantastic lectures. One is Queen of Bohemia, the forgotten journalist Zoe Anderson Norris, a lecture by Eve Kahn, who's an award-winning scholar and journalist. The Queen of Bohemia was, Zoe was an undercover journalist back in the Gilded Age, and did a lot of very interesting reporting about the ills of the city of New York. So it's going to be a very interesting talk. Another interesting talk is the renowned gilded gentleman. His name is Carl Raymond. He does talk a lot at the Merchant House and the Frick Museum, and he's bringing us a lecture on the art of food and dining in Edith Wharton's New York. That one will be in April and on April 23rd. The first one is March 12th, so it's coming up. If you're interested, let me know and I'll get you some complimentary tickets. Growing Up a Gay Life in the Shadow of Ulysses Grant is a lecture we're going to do in June to celebrate Gay Pride with the great-grandson of President Grant, who's going to talk a little bit about his family and also how he came about to coming out in his teenage years and how that was received by his family. And finally, we have a lecture in May, which we just signed up today with the president of Olana, who is one of Church's masterpieces. And that will be on Sunday, May 23rd. We've applied for a grant and received an operations grant from Connecticut Humanities for $17,000, which was wonderful. And we are restarting our education program and working on a number of other events throughout the year. Most likely, if the construction takes place in April, we will have to use remote locations like we are doing with Stepping Stones. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you at the events this spring, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions for me,
Thank you, Susie.
thank you, Anna.
Am
Hi,
yeah, hi, can I bring you up to date on our project?
Yes.
Well, we were at the planning and zoning meeting last night and did present our request for the next fiscal year for $4.5 million based on our current assessment of our needs. We, I think you all know, we have so far we have appropriations totaling 13.5 million. In the beginning, we had said that our estimates from our professional consultants, we were at like 17.5, and of course we've had some inflationary impact, as you all know. So in order to cover what we expect is going to happen when we get our bids in, we feel we're going to need that amount of money to make it all happen. We did go out to bid in November and open the bids mid-November. Disappointing. It was very disappointing. We didn't get a lot of bidders, and in some disciplines, we didn't get any bidders. So we repackaged, we went back to the drawing boards with our architects, and we repackaged the bid package, separating different disciplines and just changing it around to see if we could attract additional contractors to bid on the project. We are currently now out to bid again, and we expect the bids to come in on February 13th. And then we will be reviewing those and see where we stand. The marketplace is really tough, and our project is unique in many ways, so that there is a limit, a real limited number of contractors that are qualified for some of the major work because of how we have to approach the wiring and the installation for the fire suppression system. Let's see, we expect if things go well, when we open the bids, that we would start construction the end of April, early May. That's our target. And of course, Susie articulated, what she is going through to plan programs in-house and off-site. So it's really a challenge for us to move it all forward. We have applied and received a grant from the state, matching grant with one of our trustees to restore the front doors, and that's $150,000 project. And we had anticipated that was going to happen while we're under construction, but that's in place and ready for us to move forward. Also, we had an exciting thing last week, a project of restoration that the mansion has been working on, and Mimi Finley and I have been very focused on it for, I guess, at least 10 years. And that was raising money to restore the Randolph Rogers statue of the Lockwood children and the exquisite Herter Brothers stand. So they went out the door. We raised enough money at our last gala to undertake that project, and it's like a $35,000 restoration. So the trustees are very excited about that and hope to have it all back and be back in place when we reopen again. I don't know if you have any other questions that I can try to answer for you.
Anyone?
We're busy.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Thanks immensely that, if you ever need packing and sorting and things, call Patsy. I tell you, she's a whirlwind. We're packing up our goods as if we're moving out. The trail that we've had there for a while has been a lot of the stuff from the basement's headed onto it. And there's another day's worth of work that has to go into it. So we're staying positive and moving forward that we're going to be under construction this year at some point. I hope Mr. Livingston will support our request for capital budget this year.
Do my best.
That put you on the spot there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, Doug has brought up a good point. We have a trailer that we've rented, and it will be placed in the south parking lot during the duration of the construction. But the trailer is really required because we are under our restoration easements with the state and the city. We're required to preserve any artifacts, any parts of fragments of the building that have been stored in the mansion since many of them since the city bought it, the property in 1941. And so we have culled that and made sure we keep every piece of board and frame and door that's taken out, and old sinks, original sinks. And we found a wonderful length of original kitchen cabinets that we are now going to be working into the project to use in the gift shop. But that is a lot of bulk and it's expensive for us to store. So and that's all part of our budget. There's a large segment of our budget, actually around $500,000 in the budget for storage and moving for everything out of the mansion and then back in. So we're being very, very careful with all of that. In addition, we meet again with the state every Monday. We have a job meeting every Monday at 1 o'clock with both the economic development and with preservation. So the state has been very interested and helpful with our project, and we're very grateful to them.
One question is how is the security at the trailer going to be, or are these items that can't be easily carted off, or?
Well, let's say I had 3 men yesterday lifting them. So they're not easy to move in. It's a locked trailer. The parking lot is lit. We do have a lot of police that's sort of right in the heart, in the middle of the city. And so they use it a lot, just to wait for a call,
Right.
an emergency call. So that's very helpful. And,
And-
mhm,
And there are items, Dana, that don't need special care.
Right,
That's what I'm putting there.
Temperature-wise.
And there are items
Yeah.
that won't have any value on the street. It's only valuable to the mansion. It's not valuable to anybody else,
just curious, thanks.
no, no,
Yeah,
good question.
On that subject, I mean, I'm sure you guys heard about the Mark Twain House and the vandalism
Yes.
there.
Yes,
mean-
we have.
And I assume we have the appropriate security. You don't have to go into details at Lockwood.
We do, and I think, I forget how many years ago now, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we were able to get the spotlights lit for the park because the park had very limited lighting at night. And that's made a huge difference in the whole park area. So it's well lit now, and especially around the mansion itself.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we have window contacts, motion sensors in the building, and we pay to have a service monitor it. You know what I'm saying?
Our
There's a lot of-
last intrusion was a raccoon.
Yeah.
Literally. So
Knock on wood.
we were up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Patsy,
Susie, I'm sorry, yes.
if I might interject, I know that's not why I'm here, but we've done a number of projects like this. And one of the things that you do need to be careful with, you mentioned there was going to be cabinetry in the trailer, in the pod. In the summertime, temperatures can go up to 115, 120 degrees in those things, which causes the wood to lose moisture, and the joinery can open up, and it can be really deleterious. So you might want to investigate having at least air conditioning or some kind of climate control in the trailers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
sorry
that's
to
fine.
interrupt.
And that's helpful, and we'll check it out further. We have talked to our architects about that and they were comfortable with it. So we have made actually a list of all the inventory in the building and categorized it on the level of storage requirements that are required. So we've had a thorough look at all of that, but we will check it out. Thank you.
Right. Oh,
Okay, is that it for Lockwood today?
Could I just add
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing? Susie forgot to mention that for the third year in a row, that the Lockwood Matthews Mansion was one of the top 10 museums in the United States. Right sort of after Graceland, which is absolutely huge and wonderful and a lot of fun.
I think I voted about 8 times.
Oh, that's good.
Thank
Only
you.
8.
Something like that.
It's pretty amazing though. 3 years in a row, we've done it.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so next are, and I guess without David here, buildings, reports, buildings, cemeteries. I drove by Brookside today. I didn't really, just glanced at it. And the financials, I guess I'll just say that I had a late request to be at the, what was that subcommittee called, Tom, last night?
You're a P and Z, right?
Yeah,
P&Z sub-
P&Z, and Tammy walked me through it, our capital budget request. I just sent that out late in the day, but for everyone to glance at, so we'll see how that works out. Just the mansion repairs, Smith Street buildings, Mill Hill ADA, museum collection, cemetery site work, Lockwood House ADA, and the WPA murals at Ben Franklin are what we have requested. And I can't remember the total amount. Well, 7.5 million for Lockwood, so that's sort of a cross.
4.5, 4.5,
Okay, well, it has 7.5 on my thing, so
no,
not
4.5.
sure if that what day this was printed or what day was sent out, but 160 for Smith Street, actually 0 for Mill Hill, 350 for next year, 85,000 for museum collection, 125, this is 1,000 for cemetery site work, Lockwood House ADA 75,000, and the WPA murals 50,000, which I believe are in not terrific condition at Ben Franklin. And that's a quick summary. And there's another meeting tomorrow night, right, Tom? For
I honestly don't know.
okay, something's happening to that. Don't realize how much it takes to release. This committee last night was 3 hours, so we need to pat everyone on the back at that subcommittee. So that well, next up is old business. Tom, do you want to talk about demolition delay?
Yeah,
or-
just very briefly,
Yeah.
because I know we have other people here. We presented I presented the demolition delay ordinance to the ordinance committee. There were still a number of concerns about two things. One about the process and whether there needs to be an appeal, some sort of appeal process. And the other one is there's a significant pushback on the 180 days, the extension from 120 to 180. And I'm not sure where we're going to end up on that. I mean, I'm going to keep pushing for 180, but it may end. I just want to let the committee know that it may not go any further than 120. But I think, Todd and I have spoken. I think, it may not be ideal, but that's the best we may be able to get.
Right.
And that's really all. I mean, it'll be discussed again at the ordinance committee in February. And if anybody has any questions, they can let me know.
Now we have everyone, just about everyone from the 3135 South Main Street, the Sono Hotel expansion. You'd like to present?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Liz Suchy. I'm a partner at Carmody Torrance, Sandak and Hennessy, and I represent the applicant TR Sono Partners, Tom Rich and Alan Cosby, who are on the call tonight. In addition, Colin Grothier and Seelan Pother of Binefield Architects are also present for tonight's meeting, as is Michael Devonshire of Jan Heard Pokney Associates out of New York. He is our architectural preservationist and architectural expert. Just by way of background, the project is for 31-35 South Main Street. It would be an addition to the existing Marriott Residence Inn that exists at 47 South Main, which was constructed in 2019. If all approvals are secured, we propose an additional 48 units, rooms in the addition at 31-35 South Main, plus parking to accommodate those additional rooms. Of course, to accommodate this, we're proposing the demolition of that structure, which dates to approximately 1927. As you know, that we appeared before this commission on December 28th to present this application. We also submitted to the commission and hope that you've all had an opportunity to read it, and it's part of the permanent record. Analysis by Mr. Devonshire, and he will go into further detail on that tonight. In addition, on January 13th, there was a site meeting with certain members of the commission and Mr. Bryant, my clients, and their architect and Mr. Devonshire. And there was a discussion about the status of the building, its condition, and we can certainly discuss that tonight as well. Just some very basic comments from Mr. Devonshire's analysis of the building. Frankly, the building is in such disrepair that efforts to save it, to repair it, would result in it being a very minuscule shell of its former self. And the building itself, in our opinion, is rather unremarkable, rather common and simple in its design and its history. we would respectfully request that this matter be able to proceed and demolition continue so that we can make the addition to the existing hotel and move forward with further revitalization of South Norwalk, particularly this section of South Main Street. At this point, I would prefer Mr. Devonshire to walk you through his analysis and findings of the structure, and you certainly can ask him any questions that you have. We would like to reserve some time at the end if there are additional questions or items that we need to rebut or further discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm not sure how technical you wish for me to get with this, but I think I should start off by indicating that I am, and I think you've seen from my resume, I am first and foremost a preservationist. That's the business I'm in. It's the subject that I teach at Columbia. It's what I taught at UMass. It's what I do. And when I was first contacted by Alan, I thought it was sort of ironic because I'm usually on the other side of any sort of developer discussion. And I just, what he wanted me to do was perform an assessment of this building. And I did it from the standpoint of forensics, which I don't call myself an expert, but I've got a fair amount of experience in that area, forensics with materials and buildings. And so I approached this building, and essentially what I found was that, in the life of any building, and at some point this building was an historic building. I mean, we've all sort of come to grips with that. In the life of a building, there is a certain amount of maintenance that needs to occur to keep that building at its highest level of performance. And there is what we call in the business the bell curve, where the cost of maintenance can increase as you defer maintenance. The cost of maintenance increases possibly exponentially, and the amount of work and replacement and restoration that's necessary to keep that building, in some cases even standing, becomes phenomenal. And what happens is at the top of that bell curve and going down the other side, you reach a point where you have to restore or replace so much material on that building that you no longer have that authentic historic artifact. And in my opinion, and following my investigation of this building, I was able to come to grips with the fact that this building started on the downward spiral probably 30 years ago. It has, on just the surface, it has been painted, and that's an inappropriate treatment for a building like this. But it seems to me that that paint coating was intended to cover up what is a morass of deficiencies caused by lack of maintenance, early lack of maintenance on this building. And so to start at the top and work our way down, if that's the best way to do it, there is the building is made with buff brick with limestone trim, and there's some wood elements as well. The original windows were wood. In the center of that stepped pediment is a limestone plaque that indicates the name of the business. And that plaque, over the years, and possibly because of the paint coating, has absorbed water. And in the winter, what happens is that water freezes. And so that limestone has spalled so that plaque is almost unreadable at that point. And to remove the paint from that plaque would cause even more damage, because you can't remove the paint from this building unless you use even a very mild abrasive is going to cause problems with that plaque. I got onto the roof of the building and I was climbing along the copings. The coping, which was probably either terracotta or limestone, has been covered with sheet metal. Typically, copings are covered with sheet metal when they're leaking. And if these copings were leaking, that means there are major problems with the masonry below. Now, coming down the building, I don't know if you have images of the building, but at the bottom of the parapet wall where there is a secondary cornice, the bricks have actually pushed out almost an inch. And what that indicates on this building is that the plate, the structural plate that's at the foot of that parapet is rusting. In essentially what that means is, because the bricks are attached, they're laid up in a system with Portland cement mortar, which is extremely rigid and tenacious, you're not going to be able to disassemble that entire parapet without destroying the bricks. And so you've lost all of the masonry above that supplemental cornice. Now, parts of that cornice appear to have been replaced and they're damaged. Below that, at the head of that second story window level is also a steel plate that forms a lintel for all of those windows. That steel plate is rusting. It's causing displacement and distortion of the brick masonry above that. And in order to repair or possibly necessarily replace that lintel, all of those bricks are going to have to be replaced. They're going to have to be removed, the work will be done, and it'll be replaced. More simply, all of the windows on this building, on the second floor level, are absolutely inappropriate replacements. They don't match the original punched openings, and they're trimmed with sheet metal. They're smaller sash trimmed with sheet metal. Completely inappropriate on an historic building. Below that is another supplemental cornice. The cornice on the right-hand side of the building appears to have been replaced with sheet metal at some point. That's not original. On the left-hand side, there is a great amount of mechanical damage that looks like it's been patched in the past and patched poorly. Below that is a sign band, which again, because of the paint, you can't see the condition of the material underneath. It's probably limestone, and it appears to have also been inappropriately patched because you can see brush marks in the patching, and that's typical. I mean, it's unsightly and typical for a kind of common repair, not a repair on a valuable historic building. Below that, the wooden storefronts, they really have no connection to the storefronts that were in this building originally. Now, below that, there is some spalling of the stone and the brick at the base of the building. At the ends of the storefront level are limestone coins. They've all been damaged, both on the north and the south side. There is an original door surround that contains a limestone rope molding in the casing. There is some damage to that. You can see that on the outside of the casing, there's been damage in the past as well that's been poorly patched. Above that is a broken pediment, and there's a date symbol in limestone, which is the one thing that appears to be in relatively good condition, except for the fact that the lintel above the doorway is also rusting and oxide jacking the masonry above the doorway. And so the possibility of getting those pieces off and salvaging them is quite slim. That's essentially my point here. Is this building, unremarkable as it was, there was an article that came out in the paper the other day, and there was a reference to the building being a simplification of commercial architecture. In fact, that's what it was. This was at a period in commercial architecture when everyone was cutting corners. They were using off-the-shelf details, and it is just simply not a remarkable building. That said, if you wished to keep this building, what you would be left with after the restoration / replication process that would be necessary only to eliminate the public safety hazards, which those displaced bricks, all those areas of displaced bricks are hazardous. Just taking care of those, if you were to try and make it cosmetically valuable again, what you are going to end up with is a completely inauthentic, non-historic building. And I don't think that's worthy of this historic district, which has some amazing buildings in it. I hope that's helpful.
Mr. Devonshire, for the edification of those who may not have read your report or seen it, could you just provide us with a little bit of your background, both from your teaching perspective and also your preservation and conservation activities?
Well, I studied architecture at the Rhode Island School of Design, and then lived in Greece for 5 years after school, where I did large format photography. And it was during that time I stopped at RISD Rome, and I'm sorry, I'm going to gas bag here for a minute. RISD Rome was located in a building that was 600 years old at the time. And I remember going into the building and thinking, good Lord, there's nothing in the United States of America that I've ever messed with that's as old as this building. And it just sort of sparked this thing about antiquities for me. I came back after 5 years in Greece. I went back to school and studied historic preservation in Rhode Island. I got a job working for an architectural photographer in Philadelphia, and we photographed the building called Andalusia, which was the ancestral home of James Biddle, who at that point was the head of the National Trust. And Jim Biddle and I became friends, and he convinced me that historic preservation was what I wanted to do. I got a National Trust internship to work at the South Street Seaport Museum, documenting the buildings at the Schermerhorn Row for Jan Pokorny. I ended up working for Jan. Now I am the sole partner in that business. I taught as an adjunct professor at Columbia University for 15 years and was the co-director of the University of Massachusetts Historic Preservation Program at Amherst for 10 years. Now I lecture at Columbia because my wife said, "You're teaching." My wife, who is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, said, "The number of hours that you spend teaching and the amount of money that you make, you can actually be making more money working at McDonald's." And so I cut back a little bit on the teaching, but I have an architectural firm in New York City. We specialize in historic preservation. I actually, in 1982, did a brief condition assessment for the Lockwood Matthews Mansion. And interestingly, Susan was talking earlier about the Merchants House Museum in New York City. They've been a client of mine since 1990, and Olana has been a client of mine for 15 years now. All we do is historic preservation. I've worked on buildings in Shanghai. I've worked on buildings in India. We restored Brancusi's Endless Column in Romania, and we've done buildings as simple as, well, we worked on the Mark Twain kitchen several years ago. We restored the kitchen wing at the Mark Twain House. It's all we do.
Thank you, Mr. Devonshire. Does
Sure.
anyone have any questions of Mr. Devonshire at this point?
I just had something to say. I'm Lisa Grant, one of the commissioners. Looking at the building all by itself in a picture, yeah, it might look somewhat unremarkable, but I drove down South Main Street the other day, and as I was coming onto the area where the where Washington Street is, I realized what a shame it would be to replace that building, because it's some of the frames the gateway to the rest of the whole rest of that district. To have some kind of, modern wall there when the other side of the street is something, more charming and protected and conserved to be a sort of a cohesive district. I really think that really the facade, the front of it is, and the scale of it should be where it is. And I know it requires a lot of restoration for the front, but I think that even if a larger part was backed up a certain amount of feet away, so you just have this sort of entrance into the historic district balanced on both sides of the street as you approach. I think it's a real contributing building, and even though it's only something basic from the 20s or however you said it, I think that's an important part of history. It's not
Well-
the Lockwood Matthews Mansion, but it is history, and that is the way some of the buildings were. They were a little bit more plain and not remarkable, but they're different than they are today, and it's a contributing building, I think.
Well,
I just wanted to add that.
okay, Lisa, if I may, again, the business I'm in is historic preservation. And you're right, the scale of that building is the scale of the building, and it is a contributing element in that streetscape. That doesn't mean that the design of the new building can't somehow have that same scale fronting the street. But what I would say to your remark about restoration is this building is now beyond restoration. This building is at the point where once you perform the tasks that are necessary to make this building even safe, you will not have an historic building. You will have maybe, well, you won't even be able to save, you might have 50 square feet, 60 square feet of original brick. You won't even be able to save that, because disassembling that brick and mortar system will result in damage or destruction of those bricks because of the Portland cement mortar. So you won't have an historic building anymore. You will have a replica, just a replica. You won't have that authentic artifact anymore. It will be gone.
Okay. I understand what you're saying.
I would just like to add a few things with respect to Mr. Rich and his company. And for those of you who are not familiar with Tom Rich, he's demonstrated a significant interest and investment in SoNo for the past 15, 20 years. Aside from the numerous projects that he owns and developed, first of all, the infill development in the middle of Washington Street where the Pearl is, that used to be a parking lot, as all of you will remember. The apartments at 123 Water Street, and then the Residence Inn to the south of 3135. All of these projects, they've provided substantial economic impacts and benefits to South Norwalk and to the neighborhood. They've created economic stability, jobs, critical mass, bringing people to South Norwalk to make it vibrant and to make it safe. And it's also spurred new development in the remaining community around it. These are not things that I think should be taken lightly or discarded. Not to mention the fact Mr. Rich has also, his own interest in preservation is evident in the preservation undertaking he took at 99 Washington Street and the Saltwater Grill building. So he's aware that preservation is important, but I think the differential here is that it's preservation of structures that are worthy of preservation, both from either an architectural perspective, historical perspective, or a conditional perspective. And I think Mr. Devonshire has gone to great lengths to explain how work to make 3135 a structure that remains viable will make it a structure that is no longer historically accurate or contextual because of the amount of work that's necessary. I didn't want that to go unnoticed, that Mr. Rich and his projects have not been ignorant of the necessity and the value of historic preservation. I was wondering if perhaps Seelan Pother or Colin Grothier might be able to lend some information as to how the proposed structure could enhance the experience and the architectural vernacular that exists on South Main. Perhaps either Colin or Seelan, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I can jump in, Liz. I think the big thing there for us, and I'm just looking at the street view just to kind of.
Well, actually, if I can interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
With respect, can you put it up? Can you share the screen, because it doesn't do any good to have it.
Sure.
That would be great.
Second. So can everybody see that? Okay. So one of the things that, sorry, let's step back over this way. So the new proposal is, as you saw from the elevations that we presented last time, create a building that's similar in height to the existing hotel, which will be significantly taller than the adjacent building. But if you step down Washington Street, we've got the old fire insurance building, and I think one of these used to be the town hall. You guys probably know better than I. But those are very much in the same height zone as the existing hotel and the proposed addition. So there are buildings on both sides of the street currently that are in that height and bulk realm of what we're proposing, and that will, help to frame the view and create a sense of entry. One of the comments we got from the peer reviewer, we did have a design peer review on this because it's in a design review district, was to look at moving the entablature that you previously saw, which was pretty much 2 stories in height and probably more or less in line with the upper cornice of this the existing building, and really bring that down to be more in line with the existing Residence Inn banding here, and kind of step that street facade down, make the ground story retail, quote unquote retail windows a little bit lower and not feel quite as massive a clear story on that first level. So we have done that. We're working on refining those elevations for resubmission to zoning. So that will help change the look of the building and make that first story seem a little bit less massive, and perhaps be a little bit more scale appropriate to Ms. Wilson's comment. The other thing that they suggested was to really to deepen the facade, especially at the street level, and we're responding to that by pulling the facade and the glazing back a little bit further from the street. So the building will be more or less in line with the street wall, with the pilasters that come down, very similar to the existing Residence Inn. And then we're looking at stepping the entries and the glazing back further to create those recesses and those alcoves similar to the existing
Hey,
storefront.
Colin, excuse me a second. So as I recall, the hotel itself is not, the facade is not parallel to the street. It angles, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But this would not do that.
Right. We're adjusting to maintain the existing street wall and end up more or less with the corner of the existing hotel, because that was when that was constructed, we tried to at least maintain the position of that corner. We were the architects on that as well, and continued the street wall in some in some way there. So
Yeah, I've never liked that part there on the existing, on the hotel. But anyway,
yeah, well, that's a difficulty with the utility companies. Buildings tend to need power and, things like that. So if
yeah,
we can make,
thanks.
if we can make transformers as small as they've made telephones, we'd be in business. So I think that's my general commentary on where we're moving the design and a few of the things that have been pointed out in the peer review and how we feel it's going to contribute to the streetscape. So just providing more active use. The hotel is very active. If you go by in the mornings and in the evenings, there's usually drop-offs and pickoffs, people in the lobby, having an amenity space for the hotel that would be available to the community for rental would be beneficial. So you'd have people coming and going from the hotel. There would more than likely be people that could potentially be parking in the Haviland lot to attend an event there and not necessarily parking directly at the hotel, walking across the street, interacting in and out of the building. So we see an active hotel with more patrons for local businesses and the restaurant district here being a positive.
Just one, remind me again, is it 102 rooms now adding 48? Is that
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the total is going to be 150.
right? At this point, can Todd talk about the involvement of Preservation Connecticut? Or Liz, are you done yet? Sorry.
Well, just a point of order with
Okay,
respect
sorry.
to Mr. Bryant.
Yeah.
I can appreciate Mr. Bryant's comments and his interest. However, Mr. Bryant is not a member of this commission.
Right.
He's not an expert that's been retained by the city or by this commission to provide expertise. So in my opinion, Mr. Bryant is a member of the public and his comments should be limited to those as a member of the public. And I think those comments should have been presented during the public comment section. This is not a public hearing. And I do think it's improper for comments by Mr. Bryant to be presented to this commission at this point and in a capacity in more than just a member of the public.
Mhm. I guess at this point, because we don't have a quorum and not all our members are here, we probably still we can't vote on anything about this tonight. And because it's part of the historic district of Washington Street, this is, it's tricky for us.
What is the proposed to be voted on? I mean, I guess I didn't hear what the action item is.
Well, this
Well-
came to the Historical Commission, Commissioner and Councilman Livingston by way of a demolition permit application for the structure as part of the demolition ordinance, and a referral to this commission is required. And that's how it came before the commission, since the application for demolition was submitted.
Right, but I mean, the current ordinance doesn't provide for, I mean, if you're asking I assume you're asking the commission to lift the demolition delay, right? Because if you put the delays on, there's not a mechanism in it now, the current ordinance. So I'm just curious what the action you're asking for. I mean, I know theoretically what you're asking for, but from a legal standpoint, what is it exactly you're asking for?
We're asking for the commission to make its final recommendation with respect to the request before it. And if that means that it is going to uphold the delay ordinance, that's one thing. If not, based upon the testimony by Mr. Devonshire and others, that it doesn't deem the delay ordinance needs to be implemented, then it can make that recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Right, so you're asking the commission to reconsider and possibly lift the request for a delay.
Correct.
Okay.
It was on the agenda to listen to what Todd Bryant, as a Norwalk Preservation Trust and Preservation Connecticut, had to say about this. And I think it's important for us to understand that information to help weigh in on the full picture, not just hear one side of somebody's opinion about the building.
Well, Ms. Sachi does have the point about the whether we're proceeding legally.
Yeah, I would propose that we don't have any further discussion, go back, you talk to Corporation Counsel as the appropriate role, and Mr. Bryant. I think Attorney Suchi does have a point. But I think we need to clarify that before taking any other action. That and the quorum issue. I mean, we may have a quorum. I'm just not sure. It's 11 members on the committee. I just don't know whether we're at 7 or we're at 8.
Okay.
I guess that's all we can do right now. Todd and I did take a look at the building. Along with Michelle and a few other city people. So yeah, we can't vote on any action tonight for that.
If I could ask, what
Okay.
is the, I mean, I know you guys want to get moving as fast as possible. What is your timing in terms of when you'd ideally, once if you got all the other approvals, when you'd want to start?
That's an excellent question. First of all, we haven't had a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission. It's tentatively scheduled for February 15th. Once that moves forward, and depending upon how long that takes, and if all other, we have nearly all other sign-offs in place from the other municipal departments. After construction drawings are prepared and submitted, I suspect that'll take a few months. And then after that, construction in earnest, I believe, Mr. Cosby can correct me if I'm wrong, they'd like to commence construction as soon as possible.
Right, so tabling this to the February meeting is not going to hurt your schedule.
Our
It's-
February meeting.
Our February meeting, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. There's also there's kind of if we issue a demolition delay, what we've only been presented with is an intent to demolish. I've never actually seen the form where it's a demolition notice, so.
Well, that's the way it works under the ordinance. They apply for its intent to demolish and it's still, that would be, the permit would be delayed.
Mhm.
Dana, I thought a delay had been issued. Or you
Yeah,
haven't- Yeah, okay.
it's just that, Mr. Island always pushes back and says that it's not a demolition, so
Right, the language is
the
intent. to
language
demolish.
is confusing.
So I think that's it. I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we can even, if we're not sure about the quorum, we can't even take a motion to table it. Just,
Right.
that has to be clarified.
4 of us out of,
See, again, I don't know if it's 8. If it's 8, we have a problem. So,
And perhaps at your next meeting, you'll have the requisite other members in attendance, and that'll be a moot issue.
hopefully,
I think that has to happen, yeah.
right?
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
thank
And
you.
your
Thank you
time
very
as well.
much.
Thank you.
So Dana, I think that's really it.
Yes.
Okay,
The other thing, I don't know if we were supposed to, we only would have the election if we were gonna have Jordan stepping up, but that's moot now, I guess.
wow, yeah, I mean, you can't. You're still it, but that,
Okay,
somebody else, some other sucker comes along.
look at Liz sitting there smiling.
I know, really, I saw that.
I don't see Darren. I don't know what happened with Darren's presentation, but I guess that's it.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
I'm gonna,
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Um,
Well, you couldn't have an election anyway.
Right. Yeah. Emperor for life.
Yeah, well, at least for another month.
Yeah, we do need some more members. I think Again,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
believe
I would, if you guys can think of names, I can bring them to the mayor. So
right.
just let me know.
Put it on next door. Just kidding.
Well, it's a citywide problem for all boards and commission getting
Right.
people to do it. So,
And this
Yeah.
seems to be one of the easier commissions to be on.
well, I don't know. Okay.
Um,
anything
well,
else?
I guess we
Is that
need to adjournment?
Yeah, we can't even vote to adjourn.
Oh, that's right. We're stuck here till, no, just
Yeah.
kidding.
Well, we never called to order. so,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
In that case,
All right. See you.
nighty night.
Night.
Have a good night.
Night, everybody.
Thanks. Yep.